What power is represented by the beast in Revelation 13? To learn this, we go still further back to chapter 12, where we find a power symbolized by a great red dragon, which is the one next preceding the beast of chapter 13. The 7 heads and 10 horns upon both of these symbols show they represent 2 phases of the same power. By universal consent of Protestant expositors, the great red dragon is considered representative of pagan Rome. The next phase represented by Rome after the pagan form was the papal. Rome papal succeeded Rome pagan. The dragon gave his seat, power, and great authority to the beast. Hence, the beast of Revelation 13 can represent none other but papal Rome. If the 7 heads and 10 horns of both of these beasts in Revelation 12 and 13 show they represent 2 phases of the same power, Rome, then it should be obvious that the next beast in Revelation 17 with 7 heads and 10 horns must be the next phase of Rome. We were given clues to the truth of the matter for discovery in the last days. The historical understanding is an essential part of the true comprehension of this issue. Here's what Elder A.T. Jones said. Now I want you to see in the 12th chapter of Revelation the 3 phases of the history of the world from Christ until now. The first is pagan Rome, Rome in the time of Christ and the apostles and the early church, with Satan as the inspiration of Rome. From that, the story passed down to another power that is used against the church. But where is the church at this time when the second power comes in? In the wilderness. And the dragon still persecutes the church, and now he casts out a flood after her. In the other he persecutes her, but in this he casts out a flood. This is still Rome, but in what form? It is the apostate church, the form of Christianity inspired by Satan, who was the life of it. And what does this phase of Rome do? Still by peace it destroys many. Always by Rome's peace comes destruction. Then the dragon was wroth with the woman. Had he not been wroth with the woman before? Yes, but what now? He went to make war with the remnant of her seed. In all this you see the 3 phases of history, the 3 powers that Satan brought against the church between the first advent of Christ and the second coming. The first was pagan Rome, the second is the apostate Catholic Church, and the third is the power that is used against the remnant. In my over 20 years as a Christian Seventh-day Adventist, I had never heard any pastor or elder or evangelist teach these things in recent times. These truths have been forgotten, swept under the radar, and God used a lowly layman like me to bring them back to light. The logical progression of the 3 phases of Rome through history as prophesied in Revelation are: the first phase is the 7-headed 10-horned beast of Revelation 12. It is the complete overview of Rome from before Christ to the second coming, but the main emphasis is on pagan Rome. The second phase, the 7-headed 10-horned beast of Revelation 13, is the complete overview of papal Rome, but the main emphasis is on the Dark Ages papal Rome from 538 AD until the head wound inflicted by Napoleon in 1798 ended their reign. And the third phase, the 7-headed 10-horned beast of Revelation 17, is the current revived papal Rome since the healing of the head wound in 1929, when Mussolini gave the Pope his title of king back. To be clear, Rome is represented by 3 different phases in Revelation, each with the identifying trademark of 7 heads and 10 horns, so we cannot miss who it is. This is the evolution of the ultimate beast, with each phase in different times and with adjusted strategies against God's people. This makes each prophecy of each phase more specific to the era it represents. All 3 beasts of Revelation 12, 13, and 17 are different phases of Rome. Now the other facts about what the 7 heads and 10 horns represent can be more clearly identified. What is a head in prophecy? The controlling power in a state is the head of the state. It is one of the leading doctrines of Romanism that the Pope is the visible head of the universal Church of Christ, invested with supreme authority over bishops and pastors in all parts of the world. More than this, the Pope has been given the very titles of deity. He has been styled Lord God the Pope and has been declared infallible. He demands the homage of all men. The same claim urged by Satan in the wilderness of temptation is still urged by him through the Church of Rome, and vast numbers are ready to yield him homage. The Pope is the head of the Roman beast in Revelation 13 and 17, after pagan Rome handed the scepter to the Pope. In advocating the view that the 7 heads of the dragon of Revelation 12 represent 7 forms of government that have existed in the Roman Empire, the writer deems it necessary to remind the reader that he is not dealing in novelties. He is not introducing a new view to appeal to the curiosity of the reader and to cater to the not always healthy excitement of pursuing a line of thought because it is strange. But the view which will be advocated in this paper is one which has characterized the Adventist movement from the beginning through the first, second, and third messages to the present time, and is only beginning within a few years to be called in question. Nor can the view be said to be peculiar to Adventists in its historical aspect, a scheme devised by them to meet their peculiar views of prophecy. For scholars declared before the Adventist movement began that Rome had presented to the world as a unique and marvelous feature of history 7 distinct forms of government. All that the Adventists did was to say, as the most natural thing in the world, that if Rome did have 7 forms of government, the 7 heads of the dragon, which was a symbol of Rome, must be designed to represent that fact. One of the earliest Protestant commentators, Osiander, as early as 1511, names the whole 7 as we have them, namely, kings, councils, decemvirs, dictators, triumvirs, emperors, and popes, as the forms of Roman government represented by the 7 heads of the dragon of Revelation 12. Adventists under the first message at once adopted this view. The 7th head of the dragon beast of Revelation 12 is the 1260-year reign of Papal Rome, so Revelation 13 repeats and enlarges this head's reign. So why would the 7 heads continue to represent past governments from that point on? Repeat and enlarge means to move forward with the progression of the vision in its interpretation. This is one of the most used patterns of Bible prophecy, especially in Revelation. In 538 AD, when the mountains of Rome came under the leadership of the 7th head of the dragon beast of Revelation 12, the popes took over Europe more fiercely than any other empire ever in the history of the world, all in the name of God, but not the God of the Bible. Through the biblical prophetic constant of repeat and enlarge, the 13th chapter takes that 7th head of the first phase of Rome in the 12th chapter and enlarges it under the guideline of the 1260 years of papal rule prophesied until he who leads into captivity would be taken captive by Napoleon in 1798. Power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And says the prophet, I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. And again, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. The 42 months are the same as the times, and the dividing of time, 3 years and a half, or 1260 prophetic days of Daniel 7, the time during which the papal power was to oppress God's people. This period, as stated in preceding chapters, began with the supremacy of the papacy, AD 538, and terminated in 1798. At that time, the Pope was made captive by the French army. The papal power received its deadly wound, and the prediction was fulfilled. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. The beast in Revelation 13 is the complete overview of Papal Rome, from 538 AD till the Second Coming of Christ, but main emphasis is on the Dark Ages. Ellen White was on a trip to Valence, France, and visited the grave of the last papal head of the second phase of Rome, and she was impressed by God to write, we looked upon the bust of Pius VI, who was led into captivity and died in captivity. Here is the one marked in history who received the deadly wound. His heart is encased in the marble monument beneath where the bust is located. We felt rather solemn as we looked upon the monument of this man noted in prophecy.